Whenever you decide to take on a goal in one area of life, one of the problems you start to find is how do you keep the other areas of life still going? So today I wanted to talk about a strategy for sort of systematically addressing different weaknesses in your life while also keeping the rest of your life running smoothly. If you've read my book, Redeeming Productivity, you know that I really don't like mechanical analogies for productivity. Like I don't like when people talk about treating your life like an assembly line or your mind like a hard drive or things like that. You know, we're organic creatures. We want to be fruitful like a tree, not productive like a factory. But I am going to today break my own rule and use a mechanical analogy because here I think it's actually helpful. And we're going to be talking about is keeping the machine running. How do you at once service one area of life, try to grow in that area, try to put all your efforts into one big goal, while also making sure you're not neglecting the other areas the Lord's giving you to steward? How do you do both at once? So let me give you a quote here. This is from Jonathan Edwards. He says, "A true and faithful Christian does not make holy living an accidental thing. It is his great concern. As the business of the soldier is to fight, so the business of the Christian is to be like Christ," unquote. The reason I share that is us believers, we want to approach our life as a stewardship, and that means being intentional. And that's what I like this analogy. We want to at once do two things. We want to maintain the areas of the life that we're growing in and also optimize the areas with intention so that we can become more faithful in every area of life. So let's talk about the maintenance side of this first. So when I'm talking about keeping the machine running, keeping your life running, I'm talking about those routines, those habits. Just like on your car, you want to do routine maintenance, right? You change the oil when it tells you to. You swap out the windshield wipers, right? You rotate the tires, right? You have different routines you do to maintain the vehicle, to keep it running well. And I think the same thing is true for us in terms of our productivity, in terms of keeping our lives running smoothly. This is where things like a weekly review come in, or any sort of routine that you have, a morning routine, an evening routine, your schedule for cleaning your house. Various habits help here, right? I have a habit of going to the gym. I have a habit of reading the Bible daily, or even just scheduled check-ins. Like I like at least once a quarter to sort of do a big check-in with myself and be like, how are you doing, right? And I go through some questions, some journaling prompts of, how's your walk with the Lord? How are you stewarding this area, this area, this area, right? Those are sort of the routine maintenance aspects of life. And we want to get those in place and we want to keep those things humming along. But the other side of the coin is optimization. So I want to do maintenance, but I also want to optimize. And this is where we would think about goals or projects, taking on some specific area, pulling, as it were, a component out of the machine and saying, how do I better steward my intellectual life? Okay, let me pull out the gearbox that is my spiritual, my walk with the Lord. This isn't quite working right. I'm not consistent in this. I feel like the Bible reading plan I'm doing isn't working for me. My prayer routine isn't how it should be. Optimization is when you pull that out and you say, what can I do here? How do I set a goal to have this part run better, right? And you do this systematically. Like Edward said, you do it with intention. It's the business of a Christian to grow in Christ-likeness. And so we're trying to do this in every area of life. And again, this is where you start to feel attention. Just this last week, we started doing our goal setting workshop in the Redeeming Productivity Academy. And the same question comes up every time I do one of these. People say, hold on, you're saying just set one goal in one domain of stewardship? And I say, yes. They said, but I have all these other goals I want to do. The point is, you can only optimize one piece of the machine at a time. And what you want is, while you're focused on that one area, your routines, your habits, your maintenance habits, those keep the other parts of it running. You don't lose focus on the entire aspect of what you're supposed to be stewarding, but you are focusing particular attention in this season to make sure one area of life runs a lot smoother going forward. So the trick here is balance, right? Keeping the balance. So let me give you a few takeaways that might be useful here as you think about how am I going to optimize my productivity while maintaining the other areas of life. If you're not familiar with the paradigm of domains of stewardship, if you're watching this on YouTube or on Spotify, I have a picture up here that shows sort of these 7 areas that we're all called to steward well before God. My spiritual life, my relational life, so that's my family, my relationships, my friendships, my neighbors, right? My vocational area of stewardship, that's my job or the main thing I do. My physical health, my intellectual health, my recreational domain, right? Am I resting? Am I enjoying the good things God's given me? Because that's a stewardship too. Economical, that has to do with your household, so your finances and your stuff, right? How do you keep the household running well? So you've got all these different areas. And if you were to picture each of these areas as a piece of a machine, that's sort of what I'm talking about. Is spiritual running well? Is economical running well? Do I have habits in the relational area where I'm checking in with people? I'm going on dates with my wife. I'm spending time with the kids. I'm calling grandma, right? All those different things. Those are maintenance things you're doing to make sure that each area you've been called to steward is being maintained. What you want to do is keep all of those going. When you choose a goal, when you look at an area of your life and you say, I want to see improvement here. I want to be more faithful in, for example, my intellectual area of life. I want to read more. I want to consume better content. Let's say that was your goal. When you're focused on that, you don't let the other stuff go. You just are giving particular attention to that area. You're pulling that part out and you're serving it. You're optimizing it. So when you plug it back in, the machine runs better. That's the first thing. Keep all the routines going as you focus on a goal, but also only focus on one goal at a time. A lot of people have trouble with this is they think, well, shouldn't I have a goal for each of these areas? Yeah, just don't do them all at once. I think quarterly is a good pace. For example, this past quarter, actually this one, I'm continuing on it. I'm focusing on my physical health. I have a nutrition plan. I have an exercise plan. I'm working with someone who's helping me to grow in that area. And that's my focus. I'm not at the same time also having huge goals in all these other areas of life. My main focus is I want to make sure this area improves. So only one goal at a time. But here's the kicker. As you complete a goal, as you focus on an area of life you're trying to improve, one of the signs that you did a good job optimizing that is it leads to permanent habits in that domain of stewardship afterwards. So for example, with me with the exercise thing, I'm working out 5 days a week. I'm following more of a strict nutrition pattern. Because I'm so focused on this area, when I finish this program, I will continue, maybe not with the same level of intensity, but I will continue habits in that area as I shift my focus to something else. So you might have particular habits, a particular intensity to your focus when you're in a season of focusing on a specific goal. But afterwards, you want to leave new maintenance habits in that domain of stewardship. So for example, say you had the goal of you wanted to tackle reading 25 books this year. You said, I'm going to read 25 books. Well, when you finish that goal and you say, wow, I read 25 books just like I planned to. I've stewarded my intellectual domain better. Celebrate that. But hopefully what's going to come out of that is a maintenance habit of, hey, now I'm actually a daily reader. I might not read 25 books next year. That's fine, but something changed during that goal in that I am now better maintaining my intellectual life, right? That season of focus led to an ongoing habit of faithfulness in that area. So if you zoom out, we're using this analogy of a machine, viewing your life as a machine. If you zoom out and you look at the big picture of here's all the different things I'm supposed to be faithful in, what you start to understand is the goal isn't just one specific goal that you're doing and one specific habit that you have in an area. The big picture goal is that I want to be faithfully stewarding all aspects of life. I want to keep the machine going. And so treating your life like a machine, it's not optimizing for a specific short-term outcome. It's not even specifically about the daily routines themselves. It's about building systems that help you stay on the path of faithfulness. And when deviations come up, like from faithfulness, you know a certain area is lacking, that's when you address those with a goal or a project and you seek to optimize that part of the system. And so I want to keep the machine running. I want it to keep it going faithfully because I want to keep glorifying God in all areas of my life. I want to be intentional with it. I don't want to just leave it up to chance, right? Because that is the goal, faithfulness. And so this analogy, it just helps me to think about that. It helps me to understand the balance aspect of it. And that's why I wanted to share it with you. So let me give you a framework for intentional growth. How can you, thinking through this mindset, this sort of analogy of viewing your life as a machine, what's a framework you can use for continuing to grow in this way, addressing it like a machine? Well, I've been using this paradigm of get clear, get organized, get consistent, and it works, I think, at different levels of life, but I want to focus it here right on this, what we're talking about. So first thing is get clear. Decide on an area in which you want to grow in faithfulness. One of the ways I do this is each quarter I do sort of a self-evaluation. I say 1 out of 5, how am I doing on relational? How am I doing on economical? How am I doing on physical, right? And I just grade myself. The point of that grading is to assess where I'm not being as faithful as I should be, right? So the probably 2 or 3 quarters leading up to when I actually made some action on addressing the physical aspect of my life, I was scoring like a 1 or 2 in there. I knew I wasn't being faithful in that. I wasn't thinking about what I was eating. I wasn't exercising. I wasn't doing the things I knew I should be doing if I want to steward my body well. And so that was sort of this glaring thing. It was like if you want to use like an automobile analogy, it's the flashing light. Service engine, this part is not working how it should be. And so when I finally decided to do it, that began with me getting clear. I decided this is the area I want to grow in. Lord, help me. The second one, so after get clear, is get organized. That's when you create a plan. That's when you say, okay, if I want to grow in this area, let's work backwards. What would faithfulness look like here? Well, for me specifically in that area, there was certain things I wanted to be able to do with the kids. There were certain nutritional goals I wanted to meet. It wasn't really specifically about weight loss, but I knew there were certain metrics I wanted to hit that would show that I was being healthier, right? And so getting organized was identifying, okay, this is what faithfulness looks like. Now, how do I work backwards from there? What's a plan that's going to help me achieve that outcome? And you submit that to the Lord, you commit your plan to the Lord, and, you entrust it to Him, and you go for it. And you trust that if it's not the right plan, you're asking Him for wisdom to help guide you to the right plan. So you get clear. That means deciding which area you want to focus on. You get organized, make a plan for how you're going to address that. And then you get consistent. So this is the habit part. You develop a habit to not only in that season grow in that area, but afterwards too. Right? You might develop an intense habit just for the season of trying to grow in this one area. But the real thing is, do you have a habit that's going to carry on after that? A new maintenance habit so that the machine keeps running well. Again, I am not a huge fan of the mechanical analogy, but I think this one helps me. It helps me because it's so vague sometimes. What should I be doing? What should I be focusing on? But when you start with that framework of each of these areas as a stewardship, and I can assess which ones are working, which ones are not working well, then I can sort of make a plan for how to address each of them. I also wanted to let you know that if you enjoy this podcast or these videos, you would probably like my newsletter. I send out a newsletter twice a week. On Tuesdays, I talk about really in-depth some of the kinds of things we'd think about here. Sometimes there's worksheets. There's different things to help you think biblically about productivity and strategically about it as well. And then on Thursdays is my favorite one. That's the roundup. I send you links that I found from on the web that I think are going to be helpful to you as you grow in your productivity as a Christian. And we've got 13-something thousand people on that list. It's totally free. And when you sign up, you get a free morning routine planner to kind of help you take a jump start on getting things a little bit more organized, developing those maintenance habits, especially in your walk with the Lord. So check that out at redeemingproductivity.com/newsletter, or you'll find a link in the description as well. But before I go, I just wanted to ask you guys this. What do you think? I want to hear from you. You can let me know in the comments, or if you want to send me an email, you can always write to me at reagan@redeemingproductivity.com. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. How do you think about treating your life as a machine, assessing these different areas, juggling a focus on a specific goal for a season with the habits that you need to do to maintain the other areas of life so that things don't get out of whack? I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. hit me up. Oh, and one last thing. If you want help setting these God-glorifying goals and reaching them, this is what we do in the Redeeming Productivity Academy. That's our membership program. We've got about 250 people in there right now. We just kicked off our Q4 goal challenge, so there's still time to get in there. We will help you with a plan to create a good goal for these next 3 months so you can finish 2024 strong. And we will help keep you accountable to that goal, putting in the time, doing the habits, making sure you actually reach it. And you get to do this in a community of other productivity-minded believers. Check it out at redeemingproductivity.com/academy if you want to join. And thanks for watching. I'll see you guys again here next week.